Today, we're unpacking something huge, a systemic workplace issue that touches literally everyone: mental health. We're going to uncover just how deeply it impacts individuals, the bottom line, and most importantly, how organizations can actually step up and fix it.
So let's dive right in with a tough but totally necessary question. Post-pandemic, employers simply can't just assume everyone is doing okay just because they're logging on and showing up to meetings on time, right?
Think about it like this. If an employee has, say, a broken leg or a really severe cold, we instantly recognize those physical ailments. We offer accommodations, time off, empathy, all without a second thought. But there's a massive disconnect when we're dealing with invisible psychological conditions like anxiety, depression, or PTSD. These conditions are impacting employees every single day, right under the surface, without anyone even noticing.
Let's move to Section 1, the invisible workplace crisis.
You know, the past few years have introduced a level of psychological trauma that has entirely reshaped the modern workforce. And the scale here? It's absolutely massive. Over 50% of U.S. adults are going to need mental health treatment in their lifetime. And get this, 1 in 25 is currently living with a serious mental illness, things like bipolar disorder, major depression, or PTSD. So this isn't some rare anomaly. This is a statistical reality in literally every single office, factory, and remote team out there.
Moving on to Section 2, the real cost of silence. Because ignoring this crisis isn't just a personal failing, it carries a staggering financial and human cost for businesses. To put that into perspective, the World Health Organization estimates that depression and anxiety cause a massive loss of productivity, totaling up to $1 trillion every single year globally. $1 trillion. That is an astronomical figure directly tied to unmanaged mental health. And bringing it a bit closer to home, in the United States alone, untreated mental illness costs the economy a massive $200 billion annually. Major depression is actually cited as one of the costliest issues among full-time workers. Why? Well, because it cascades into so many other operational problems.
Now, what's really interesting here is how these massive financial losses connect directly to micro-level employee behaviors through something called presenteeism. Now, this is when an employee is physically sitting at their desk, but they simply cannot function properly. Because their mental health is suffering, their decision-making is impaired, communication breaks down, and mistakes inevitably happen. They're there, sure, but they aren't fully present.
And this invisible struggle evolves into much larger, very visible trends. We've all heard the corporate buzzwords, right? The Great Resignation and quiet quitting. While research points out that quiet quitting isn't just about lazy employees, it's a direct response to unmanaged burnout. Workers are finally realizing that their worth isn't defined solely by their labor, and they're stepping back from this toxic hustle culture just to protect their own minds.
Which leads us perfectly into Section 3, understanding workplace stigma.
So if the suffering is this widespread and the costs are so incredibly high, why on earth aren't people getting help? Well, we have to examine the enemy here: workplace stigma. The National Academy of Medicine actually breaks stigma down into 3 distinct types. First up is self-stigma. That's where a person internalizes negative beliefs, feeling somehow damaged or broken. Second is public stigma, the social marginalization and fear pushed onto individuals by society. And third is structural stigma, which refers to those systemic, discriminatory institutional policies, including workplace norms, that actively restrict resources. Together, these stigmas lead to social isolation, incredibly low self-esteem, hopelessness, and even unemployment.
Ultimately, as we're seeing here, these stigmas fundamentally prevent employees from seeking treatment when they need it the absolute most. I mean, people are terrified of losing their jobs, damaging relationships with their colleagues, or being misjudged by future employers, so they just suffer in silence. The illness stays invisible, and unfortunately, it usually just grows worse.
All right, let's pivot to Section 4, solutions for a healthy culture.
Okay, so we know the problem, we know the cost. To combat this, the research lays out a brilliant 5-step playbook. It's designed to transform all these theoretical ideas into actionable, empathy-driven interventions that systematically humanize the workplace. So let's walk through it together. Step 1. Destigmatize. And that has to start at the top. Managers absolutely must model healthy behaviors. The research suggests something as simple as managers taking actual, real paid time off to relax and recharge, and then actively encouraging their staff to do exactly the same. It shows employees that self-care is not some punishable offense, but an expected standard.
Moving to Step 2. Develop inclusive work environments.
The research shows a really close connection between mental health and diversity and inclusion. Creating safe spaces, like voluntary employee resource groups, and ensuring leaders use inclusive language, well, those are essential. Because when people from diverse backgrounds feel valued, accepted, and feel like they truly belong, their psychological well-being dramatically improves.
Step 3 is all about financial commitment. Investing in proactive resources like employee assistance programs pays off massively. Get this, for every single dollar invested in expanding mental health treatment, there is a $4 return in enhanced productivity and health. So it's not just the right thing to do, it is incredibly smart business.
Let's move into our final section, Section 5, the empathy advantage.
The pandemic proved once and for all that remote and hybrid work is completely possible, and now the demand for work flexibility has literally never been greater. Organizations have to offer flexible work arrangements, address those excessive job requirements, and close compensation gaps. Otherwise, you're just going to watch your top talent flee to competitors in pursuit of a better work-life balance.
And finally, normalize empathy and kindness. Senior leadership must authentically model empathy, practice radical transparency, and weave kindness into the very core values of the organization. It's really about actually listening to your coworkers, eliminating biases, and recognizing people's strengths.
Because the crucial point is this right here. Employees just want to know they aren't alone in their daily struggles. They want to shift from being viewed as mere resources, human doings, to being recognized as actual human beings, complete with emotional and psychological needs.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, I really want to leave you with this question. Does your workplace culture truly support the humans behind the work? Think about those invisible illnesses, the heavy cost of presenteeism, and the absolute power of empathetic leadership. Consider what changes you can champion tomorrow, whether you're a senior manager or a brand new team member, to make your workplace a safer, more supportive space for everyone.